Today is the second day of our series. I now understand the season of Lent. Today we are going to learn something special. Why is it that the Orthodox churches prepare themselves 40 days before the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ? So I have here my brother Derrick, who is going to explain things to us for us to get the meaning of the duration 40 days. So my brother, why is it that the Christians or the Orthodox churches, they have these 40 days of preparation during Lent?
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Gilbert. So the number 40 years is very significant in the life of Christians and Jews alike. So the number 40 actually catch our attention from the Old Testament. Now when we look at the people of Israel, they were very much using this number, or it appears to be very significant in their lives. For example, you see that the people of Israel moved from Egypt, the land of slavery, through the desert to occupy the new or their promised land. And you realize that it took them 40 years for them to take that journey. Again, you realize that at the center of Judaism or the life of the Israelite is the Torah. And this Torah was given to them on their journey to the promised land, which took 40 years in the desert. And when Moses, the leader of the Israelites, went to take these laws from Mount Sinai, or the Mount of God, you realize that he took 40 days and 40 nights. Again, the prophet Elijah, a great figure in the life of the Israelites, also when he was fleeing from Jezreel, the queen, he took 40 nights and 40 days to get to Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb, which is the same mountain. So why the number 40? Let us also look at some prominent people in the life of Israel, some of their kings and their monarchs and judges. The first king of Israel, you all know him, King Saul, took 40 years in his reign. You might not have seen this as it looked, because when you read the book or First Kings, it looks as if the man spent few years. But the book of Acts, the chapter 13, verse 21 tells us that Saul reigned for 40 years in Israel. After him came King David, popular man. David also ruled Israel for 40 years. You ask yourself why. Again, when you look at some of the judges like Eli, the man who trained Samuel in the book of 1 Samuel, you realize that this man also judged Israel for 40 years. Why the number 40? The number 40 was very significant in the life of the Israelites. And even they took 400 years in slavery in Egypt before they left. Because of that, we realize that this number meant something to them. The number 40 for the Israelites meant a whole generation. So realize that the people of Israel in their journey from Egypt to the promised land offended God. And God decided that he will punish those people. And the way the punishment came was that they took 40 years in the desert, and that generation died off and a new generation came. So for the Israelites, 40 years signified a new generation. Again, 40 years will separate one epoch from another. So the time of Moses was a different epoch from the time of the other prophets like Samuel and Ezekiel and co. So that time of Moses will last for 40 years, a very unique epoch. Again, the 40 years signified for Israel a time of probation, a time of trial, a time of testing for them. All of these meanings were embedded in the number 40. So why, if you ask again why, you realize that this number meant these things for the people Israel and in Judaism and in their worship. So let's come to Christianity. For the Christians, we take much of our tradition from Jews. And our main reason for celebrating or preparing ourselves 40 days and 40 nights before Easter is taken from the same thing that Jesus did, 40 days and 40 nights of fasting in the desert before his public ministry. So we as Christians move or live our lives in the manner after Jesus Christ, the man we worship. This man, before his public ministry, it is a different epoch from his childhood or his early days. He spent 40 days and 40 nights in the desert preparing. So the season of Lent was symbolically Lenten to the 40 days and 49 to represent for us this same meaning. Why? Let's take a look at the history or the background of Lent. Lent came about and it took some process and some time. It began by preparing the catechumens, those who were undergoing training to receive baptism and become part of the Christians. And these people will prepare themselves before they are being baptized on the eve of Easter. Now you have to realize that for the Christians, Easter is the main feast. Easter is the most important festival. It's at the center of Christianity because Easter summarizes the message of Jesus Christ and his mission on earth. His death, his suffering, his death, burial, and resurrection. So the 40 days that the people took to prepare before this great feast was very significant. Now, these people, the catechumens, while they are being prepared for communion or for baptism, will be joined by others who were already baptized and who might have offended God and his church grievously, and they might have been excluded from coming or receiving communion. These people also joined the catechumens in this time of preparation, and they did penance for their sins, so that in Easter they will receive the forgiveness of their sins and then be rejoined to the church again. And we realize that this preparation became so important, very significant, that the other faithful joined in with time. So the time was lengthened, and it became, or it got to the number 40, and it symbolized the time that Jesus spent in the desert. So by the end of the 4th century, this practice was formalized. It was accepted in the early church, and at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, it was accepted. And from there, you realize that these 40 days of preparation, of fasting, of prayer, of almsgiving has been preserved to prepare the faithful, the people of Christ, before the very big feast, so that they will be ready to join in the suffering, in the death, and in the burial and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So for both Christians and for Jews, I think this is the kind of reason behind the symbolic 40 days and 40 nights.
So, brethren, we've heard it all. He has explained things to us. We've learned a lot why we celebrate the season of Lent within 40 days. We thank our brother Derrick for the expose. We will plead with you that if you like our page, you watch the video, any comment, you just share it. We will take it up, and watch out for our next series next week.